Hi, welcome to another mask tutorial. This is the final mask design out of my latest collection. This is the butterfly mask. The panel at the front could be swapped for a clear plastic panel, for those that want to make it easier to allow people to lip read. The nose area is spacious, especially for those people with a higher nose. It is shaped at the side and cupped under the chin. Again, this mask has a filter lining. The edges of the filter lining reaches here. It can be shortened so it doesn't have to reach the sides. It also allows you to remove the nose bar. For demonstration purposes, I will be using the full width. It is 3 layers without a filter. I would also like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Expand for sending me a few packets of the elastic to sample with. If you watch to the end, I will show you how to use them on my masks. I especially like this one because of the light reflecting properties, great for people using masks at night. Print off the patterns required. In this tutorial, I'll be using the conventional filter lining option, the one with the lining in the middle. This is because it is the most popular method. Before we move on, you have the option to cut or not to cut this dot. By cutting it, it will make it less bulky. Cut out the dot on both patterns. If your fabric frays easily, then skip to the time indicated. I will show you how to deal with this dot. See this crease line from point to point? Fold it back. We are going to true the edges of this dot. Cut along the straight edge. Repeat on the other pattern. For this tutorial, I will be using the whole filter lining. If you want to use the reverse filter lining option, cut down this line so you will only have this side of the pattern. Also, your mask will only be 2 layers thick. For instructions on how to insert the reverse filter lining, go to the basic one-piece mask that is Making Monday episode 19. Skip to the second half of the tutorial. If you choose to use the whole pattern but want a wider opening, it is best to sew up the dot first, then trim off the edges. Remember, you will lose about 1 cm, that's 3/8 of an inch later. Remember to wash all fabrics and materials to pre-shrink it. Fold the main fabric with the right sides on the inside, making sure that a folded edge is on grain and both edges are parallel. You should iron it to give it a crisp edge. By placing your lining and main fabrics together, you can cut out some work. I am using cotton here, so either side of the fabric is fine to use. Otherwise, place the right side of your fabric on the inside, making sure again that the fabric is on grain and the edges are parallel. Align the folded edges. Pin in place on the folded edges. You will need to adapt this fabric to whatever mask you are making. Place the main patterns on the fabric. Pin the mouthpiece pattern on the folded edge. Now for the main pattern. See the grain line? Place it so that it is parallel to the nearest edge. I am just moving it closer so I don't have to waste too much fabric. Pin in place. Now for the filter lining fabric. I just used the same cotton as previous. Fold this in half. Remember to fold your fabric with the right side on the inside if there is a difference. Make sure the edges are parallel and on grain. Again, make sure you place the pattern so that the grain line is parallel to one edge. And pin in place. You will need to use the mouthpiece pattern in this gap. Cut this out roughly and place it on the filter lining fabric. Place this on the folded edge. Pin in place. Cut all the pattern pieces out. Remove all the pins to organise your fabric pieces. Get them ready to be sewed. For each mask pattern, you place the mouthpiece pattern with it. And here is why I have named this the butterfly mask. Place the 2 fabric pieces together, right side on the inside. You are now going to cut notches into your pattern pieces. This will help you sew the difficult bit of the mask later. Place a pin to help keep the fabric pieces in place. Only cut this edge, roughly 1 cm intervals. The seam allowance is 1 cm, that's 3/8 of an inch. So you are going to snip less than this along the curve. Do not cut too deep. Repeat on the other 2 fabric pattern pieces. I have placed them together to cut out extra work. They are basically the same pattern. Time to sew the main fabric. We are going to sew the front seam first. Starting from this side, flip the mouth piece over. We are going to start from the bottom edge. Rotate the fabrics. We're going to sew 1 cm, that's 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Starting from this point, remember to backstitch at the beginning and end of your stitching. This should be second nature and I won't be reminding you on this. I will first sew this with the side front fabric underneath to show you how I adjust it as I sew. Top hand and bottom hand bring the fabric seams together while keeping an eye on the seam allowance at the needle position. I will also demonstrate this with the fabric on top later, so you can decide which method suits you. Once you have got the curved seam out of the way, it gets much easier. The seams are now straight. Now sew all the way until you have reached the centre of the mouthpiece. You can tell because there is a fold mark. Then backstitch. Open it up and make sure the stitching is even and that no pleats or tucks appear where the stitches are. The edge of the fabrics are aligned. Now flip the left fabric over. Align the bottom left edge. Rotate the fabric around. Starting with the presser foot down and the seam is against the seam allowance tape. Start stitching. Watch how I hardly move the bottom fabric, but mainly manoeuvre the top fabric. Just make sure the edges of the fabric is aligned where the needle is, then you should be fine. Now as you get to the straight edge, feel with your finger for a ridge. This is where the 2 fabrics joined. Feel this on the top fabric and mark with your fingernail. You're going to stop with the needle in this ridge. Careful not to sew beyond this. I like to reinforce by backstitching here. Keep the needle in the down position. Pull the remaining fabric over to match the fabric edge at the bottom. Now complete the seam. It should look like this. Now we're going to sew the side darts. Throw the right side touching the right side. Sew this seam. Repeat on the other edge. When pressing, make the seams lie downwards if your fabric is not too thick. If it's too thick, then make sure your darts lie in different directions on each layer. Repeat on the lining fabric. If you're using the reverse filter lining method, the gap must be done on the lining fabric. You will need to leave a 1 cm, that's 3/8 of an inch gap on the curve of the nose. It is about 1 cm, that's 3/8 of an inch away from the edge. If you're using the conventional filter lining method, then the gap will be on the filter lining fabric. Time to sew the filter lining. Repeat the same process, but remember to leave a gap for the nose bar insertion. For demonstration purposes, I will show you how to correct this if you forgot to leave a gap. If you remember where to leave a gap, remember to backstitch before you leave a gap and backstitch after to reinforce it. If you have forgotten to leave a gap in the filter lining, here's how to correct it. About 1 cm, that's 3/8 of an inch away from the edge. Unpick 1 cm, that's 3/8 of an inch gap. Put the seam back into the sewing machine and backstitch both sides of the gap to reinforce it. Clip the curved edge of the seams. Careful not to snip too close to the stitch or the gap. Do this on all fabric pieces. You can open the seams and press with your fingers. Snip off any excess fabric. Snipping these two bits are optional. Repeat on the other two fabric pieces. When pressing the mask, press the top nose seam open. The front seams are pressed to the sides. The side seams are pressed downwards, unless it's bulky. Get the filter lining fabric. This is the one with the gap in the nose area. You can cut the sides down by a few centimeters if you want, before we proceed to the next step. It will give your filter lining a wider opening. Wrong side facing up. Fold the edges by 5 mm, then another 5 mm. The fold lines are just a guide. You don't have to be 100% accurate with this. Edge stitch this down. Repeat on the other edge. Place the main fabric piece with the right side facing up. Filter lining, that's the smallest layer, with the wrong side facing up. Lining with the wrong side facing up. Match up the seams at the top edge. Place the pin in roughly 1 cm, that's 3/8 of an inch down from the top edge. Check to make sure the pin goes through all seams. Pin along the top edge. Now rotate the fabric and pin the other edge. Match up the seams. My fabrics aren't too thick, so I can get away with putting all my seams facing the same direction. Place your pins 1 cm, that's 3/8 of an inch, down from the edge. Pin along the edge. Stitch both edges. By holding the fabrics up like this will help control your sewing. Snip along the curved edges to help it lie flat when turned the right side out. Do this at roughly 1 cm intervals. Accuracy isn't too important here. Turn the right side out using the channel that is between the main mask and the filter lining. Give it a press, but don't worry about the edges that is not quite pulled out. Prepare your elastic and nose bars if you want to use one. Seal the ends with a flame to prevent it from fraying. Most of my patterns actually don't require them, but just give it a snug fit when using one. You can even thread this into the mask later if you have the tool. This is a double wired nose wire, about 3 mm wide. You can get this in 5 mm width. I like to bend the ends in to make it easy to slide in, and bend it like this. Tie both ends of the elastic to create a loop. Make sure the knots are small and tight. Repeat on the other piece. Place it on the end and fold over 5 mm, then another 5 mm. I just fold it enough so that it sits next to the filter lining. The markings on the pattern are just guides. You don't have to be 100% accurate here. Slide the elastic out of the way. Edge stitch this. Careful not to sew into the elastic. Repeat on the other edge. If the fabric edge is slightly uneven, give it a trim. When tucking in the elastic ends, be careful not to stretch it. We are now going to edge stitch along the top and the bottom edges of the mask. This will make the mask look better and reinforces it. Either use a pin or a needle to pull the seams to the edge. I like to do this while sewing. Start just after the elastic channel so you don't catch it. Edge stitch close to the edge I like to use my clickers oar to do this. Not only does it pull the seams out, it also helps guide the fabric in. Stop before you reach the elastic channel and backstitch. It should look like this. Repeat on the other edge. For the mask with the wrong side out. Measure the length of the nose bar slot by placing the wire like this. Place a pin at the beginning and end of the slot. I like to make mine slightly longer. We are going to sew down, along and then up. You can choose to start to either side of the mask. I like to sew with the main fabric upwards. Starting from the left pin, press a foot down. I like to sew between 3 to 5 stitches down. Make sure the width is wide enough to accommodate the nose wire gap. Needle down, press a foot up, pivot the mask 90 degrees, press a foot down and sew to the next pin, using the edge of the mask as a guide to keep your stitching parallel. When you get to the next pin, stop. Needle down, press a foot up, pivot the mask 90 degrees. Press the foot down, then complete the stitching. Time to insert the nose bar. For the mask backwards, so that the wrong side is on the outside again. Slot in the nose bar like this. So there you have it, the complete butterfly mask, my final mask design out of this collection. Remember, my masks are not 3-minute jobs. I like to design a variety of masks so that everyone has access to at least one good looking mask. If your main fabric frays easily and you don't want to cut into your side darts, you could fold them just like you would on darts on garments. After cutting out the pattern, cut the side darts like this. But first we must true our patterns. Placing a pin here will help you fold easier. Fold so these 2 points match up. Crease the fold. Turn it over so you can see a straight edge. Cut along this line. Notice it is not quite straight. Repeat on the other pattern. Placing a pin here will help you fold easier. Fold so these 2 points match up. Crease the fold. Turn it over so you can see a straight edge. Cut along this line. So there you have it if you don't want to cut into your side darts. This product was sent to me by Expand to sample with. Even though I was never short of elastic, I thought I'd give this project a try. Each pack comes with 2 pieces of shoelaces and these toggles, which helps you fasten the elastic to your shoes so you don't have to ever tie your laces again. They're made from slightly tougher rubber. Because of this, I presume they will last longer than your average dress elastic. Each lace is 132 centimeters, that's 52 inches from tip to tip. You should be able to adapt this to the type of mask you are making. Obviously, if you want to use it to go over your head, that will use up more elastic. Here is a little tip if you don't want to use the channel method. I actually prefer the channel method because it allows you to change the worn elastic. Also, it pulls the mask at the side to not get the gaping look. If you don't like the channel method, you can always attach the elastic like this. This is only good if your size is 3 inches or below. Any higher, you will get some gaping on the sides. Tuck in the edges by 1 cm and attach your elastic. Cut out roughly 4 1 cm long elastic. Fold it in half and insert it into the mask, leaving an elastic width poking out. You can hold this in with a pin. We're going to edge stitch this into place. Here's a little tip for those who are already using this method. If your elastic keeps shifting or not staying still when sewing, do not start on the edge, start after the elastic and sew backwards before sewing forwards. Using a clicker saw or a long needle will also help. Slot in the next piece of elastic before you get close to the end. Repeat on the other edge. Thread your overhead elastic through all 4 loops before cutting the lace tips. Bend the ends to stop it from fraying and attach by sewing 2 lines of stitching. Because the elastic is quite strong, you might need an extra 5 to 10 cm more compared to the usual dress elastic to allow for stretch. Thanks to Expand for sending me these samples. Remember to like, share, subscribe or follow for more from me at Shani Makes. Find me on Facebook, Instagram or visit my website at shanimakes.com. Thanks for watching, see you next time.